Hello, everyone. It's midday on Friday, which means one thing and one thing only, which is where have the biscuits gone?
I had them.
Or it means it's Wow Ergonomics. Hello, welcome everyone. I've got some Wow Juice. This is a new product on the market. Wow Juice. If you drink it, it works. Just watch. Wow.
Even
See?
I'm going to say, wow.
Wow. There you go. We're going to be talking all things call centers today, and I'm really excited for this one because, Twyla, I've spent over 20 years. I felt like I spent most of my life in a call center. As a workplace needs assessor, I travelled from one end of the country to the other, going in call centers a lot of the time, and I have to say, some of them are the most miserable places I've ever been in. So I really would love to get deep dive on this. I'm sure that they've improved drastically over the last 5 years, but we will find out from our wonderful guest Leigh in a minute or two. But tell us about your week beforehand, and you've got a bit of a cold, I hear.
Yeah, I'm feeling very sorry for myself. I think it qualifies as man flu. I do man flu better than most men.
Do you?
So, yeah, I have to admit it. So
You're not doing very well then on that basis, because you wouldn't be here, or you'd be wearing dark shades, and you would be complaining bitterly already
well,
about anything,
I'm complaining
absolutely
bitterly
everything.
about my inability to do anything I want to, like enjoy the beautiful weather yesterday. I
Wow,
need some wow juice. That's what it is.
everybody needs Wow Juice.
You listen to my sultry voice here. It's like
Forget that other soft drink with that begins with P. This is it. This is it, baby. This is the new
the new one.
beginning. Yeah. We're going to bring Leigh in, which means that the back at Elkheisen logo will get covered up. So do make a note of that, folks, before I bring her in, so that you know who the show's sponsored by now. Here we go. Hello. Good morning.
Hello and good morning. You were just saying about the sunshine. I have to say, I am a little concerned that we've got a thunder and lightning going on. So fingers crossed, everything will be okay while I'm chatting to you.
Where are you coming from?
I'm in the south of England.
But now, hang on. You can't just say the south of England, because I'm in the south of England, but my south of England might be different from your south of England, right? So I'm in the southwest. Where are you?
So I'm near Guildford.
Right. You see, that's a different south.
South.
That's a very different south.
I'm in the south.
You're southwest. So whereabouts are you in the southwest?
I'm in Chard in Somerset.
Oh, nice part of the world.
It is a very nice part of the world. Most people know Chard. Do you know Chard?
Well, I was a little kid in a little place called Frome.
Oh, so yeah, not too far from here. Frome's a lovely place. Lovely place. It's got a great gig venue, the Cheese and Grain. What else can I tell you about Frome? It's got that lovely little street with all the coffee shops down there as well.
Stream running down the middle, Cheap Street.
Yeah, it's lovely.
Yeah,
nice.
It's a pretty little place.
A lovely, great car park in the middle with public toilets that actually work.
I have to say, I am going back 40 odd years since I lived there, so it's quite a long time ago, to be fair.
How many of us actually, before we get onto the serious stuff about call centers, whatever, how many of us actually judge places that we visit by the public conveniences at that said place and their accessibility?
Towns.
Yeah.
Nightclubs, pubs and restaurants, absolutely, but not towns.
Yeah, I do. I mean,
Salesman, I love a town where I can figure out where the good hotels are, so I can dive in and dive back out, because you're on the road. It's like much better than tube stations for sure.
Yeah, absolutely.
So because we do a lot of events here at the CCMA, and we do therefore lots of venue visits. one of the things that we do is go and check out the toilets, because it tells you so much about the venue.
And stairwells.
Absolutely. So now listen, you've just used an acronym there. It's very important. We dock brownie points on this show if you use an acronym and then you don't explain it. So we're going to quickly let you explain what that acronym is, so that everybody that's listening that now thinks that they're trying to work it out. The cookie cutters, anyway, explain what that is for people.
So the CCMA, Call Centre Management Association, although in 2 weeks' time we are going to, can I say this live here? I'm going to say it live here. We are going to be the Contact Centre Management Association, so that's all very exciting. Just moving with the times a little bit there. So yeah, we basically are a membership body that is here to help and support contact centres, and all the people that work in it, help them develop, grow, learn from each other, recognise just how brilliantly they are doing, just how brilliantly they are. And we're on a bit of a mission to, frankly, prove that the contact centre is the most valuable function in business, because we really believe it is.
Cool. Okay, I get it. So why the change in narrative? Can I ask? Why moving away from call to contact? That's obviously a really big move. So why is that?
So we're 30 years old this year, and 30 years ago they were call centres. There's a lot of people that still call them call centres, but they do so much more than that now. It's not just picking up the phone. They're at the other end of emails. They're at the other end of social chat. So it's lots of different channels. It's not just picking up the phone.
There you go.
So breaking news. Is this the first place in the whole world where this is being announced?
It is. It is. It is. But we're officially announcing it next 10 days time. You guys, Twyla, I'm really looking forward to seeing you at the conference on the 2nd of what month are we? October.
Yes. It's just a few weeks away.
Everything happens first on WOW. It's just a God-given fact these days, etc. We're going to deep dive really into sort of well-being in contact centres as part of the conversation today, etc. But let's go back to what I said right at the beginning. Some call centres, contact centres. Let's call them contact centres. Some contact centres that I have visited in the past, pretty awful places. Is there a bit of sort of stigma from the outside world towards these as sort of businesses or parts of business as well, because they are kind of perceived as maybe modern day sweat houses, etc.? Is there kind of that concept coming in from the outside world?
Oh, totally. It's one of our biggest challenges, if I'm honest. And it's one of the reasons why we're doing quite a lot of the work that we're doing and some of the plans we've got ahead, because working in a contact centre is so rewarding. There are, whether you are looking for a career or just want to work in a great place, the contact centre is really good. So you can come into a contact centre. Most people fall into working in a contact centre. I don't know where else to do. I don't know what to do. I don't know where my career is going. I'll get a job. I'll work in a contact centre. And what I think they then realise is the vast career opportunities in the contact centre. And what we're seeing is that in a long time ago, and maybe not that long ago, attrition is quite high. Because it's a stopgap and because it is a tough job working on the front line, really quite a tough job. But what the skills you get from working on the front line mean that the career opportunities, not just in the contact centre, but beyond the contact centre, so many more than other jobs that you might go into. So there's loads of career opportunities, but they're great places to work. They're so much fun. And the camaraderie that you get in a contact centre is so good, whether you're in selling insurance, whether you're dealing with broadband, customer service, or whether we've got quite a few of our members are charities, and they have some really, really tough conversations, but they are still great places to work. And I know we'll talk about well-being, but all of the leaders I talk to look after their people. And it is one of the things I love about our space, is that actually it's a really, really people-focused industry. And that whole be kind is really, really relevant.
Let me say some of the great things that I've seen in call centres over the years. I've seen when it's been things like, and I've been involved in those things like children in need, and
Yes.
call centres that people have given up their time, so they've spent the evening becoming a part of the call centre for massive charity or whatever, or just general in fundraising, and I've walked into call centres and like everybody's dressed up, or even on days like Halloween or whatever, and it's scary. You think you've walked into a witch's coven. And everybody's wearing all of this stuff, and there does seem to be that kind of family feel that people try and create. All of that's good. I think that is really good. People, it does feel like a really great place to work on days like that. One of the problems I've seen is that some of the reward culture in the past, I haven't been into a call centre for 5 years now because I've been doing this for 5 years, but some of the reward culture has been misplaced in a way. It's been around the wrong things. So I've seen some really daft behaviour in terms of reward culture. I've seen a call centre. I've mentioned it on the show before. I've seen a call centre in the middle of a trading estate where the only place you can get to it is by car, where one of the rewards for all of the team are Alco Pops put on the table at the end of the end of a bench. Help yourself during the day, and sometimes quite a lot of reward around food, but not good food as well. So like, hey everybody, I've brought the whole team donuts. I nearly mentioned a name then, but I wouldn't. But I've brought everyone donuts, and like everybody's stuffing their face, and there's some bowls of sweets and whatever. But which is great fun, but you do that on a regular basis or whatever, you're not really promoting well-being. And then then half the time when you're then going to see people, they're overweight, they've got musculoskeletal issues, part of that is to do with their diet, etc. And you think you're quite a lot of your role is is quite inactive in terms of your body or whatever. You're not getting breaks, you're not getting exercise, you're filling your body full of sugar. Is this a great reward system? Does some of that, is that a reasonable synopsis of some balance that you might have seen in the past?
So I'm not going to say that doesn't still happen. There will be offices that still have, whether they are contact centres, call centres, or whether they are just simply offices. There will be offices that will have the I nearly used the brand then as well. They will have donuts just turn up, because it's someone's birthday or whatever. But actually, what we've seen specifically in the last 3 or 4 years, because of all the recruitment, retention challenges that have been going on, we have seen more of a move towards healthier food. So it's not, I'll use examples. Lego, their contact centre, they have fresh fruit available all the time. Every day they get a new load of fresh fruit in.
And it's not made out of Lego.
It's not made out of Lego. That's not made out of Lego. Lego is unique. It's a fun place to be. You get to see all the Lego kits and everything else. Cool. But actually, from a well-being perspective, they do have fresh fruit the whole time. So that's certainly in more recent years the direction it's been going in, rather than having sweets at the end of the table. And you talked about reward there, and the rewards are different. Again, what we've seen in particular going through financial crisis, it wasn't necessarily the sweet treats that they were after, that anyone working was after. It was more actually, I need money. I need something that is going to help me in my day-to-day at home, rather than a sweet treat. And I know there were other or some organisations that were saying, right, actually you might not be able to do the special days out because actually there's, funds are tight because of the financial crisis. And so there might be special days out that are available. So the contact center has definitely moved with the times, without question.
Could I say I've had a really good conversation? Am I allowed to say a company name?
Yeah.
No? Okay.
I did.
Well, you'll know more about Found Ever than I will, I think. But I was speaking with someone, first of all, very professional, very easy to get in touch with, very open. But wow, the stuff they do for their staff and their call centers, and it wouldn't matter what they were doing, it would be award winning. So the call center is no different from everything else that is going on. So a well-run organization probably has a really well-run call center. And the other conversations that I've had is that the number of people, they have retention problems in call centers because if your call center people are good and stay, they get promoted. They get promoted, boom, 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 and they end up at the top because they know what it's like at that coal face. And it's very rare. It used to be like when people had apprenticeships that people would work their way up. Now people come out and they get plunked in and they might miss that development aid. And I think call center is a really fabulous place for that. Like you said, people who don't know what they want to do find it this way, and it's very rewarding. So.
And it's interesting when you talk about Found Ever. So Found Ever being an outsourcer, and one of the things that has become more apparent to me in recent years. So Graham, I'm sure that you're familiar, but if anybody's listening, there's a number of different types of contact center, but for the purposes of what I'm going to talk about, you've got those that are in-house within a brand, like Lego. Lego has all of their contact center within Lego. And then there are other brands that will outsource their contact center operations to companies like Found Ever. And because of the budgeting model behind both organization types, it means that they have potentially a different way to looking after their people. So when you've got a brand like Lego, they are looking after their people because it's part of their brand values to do that. And that will form a big part of how much they look after their people or how little they look after their people, among lots of other influencing factors. For an outsourcer, every person that's on the phones is related to a commercial contract. And therefore, there is a commercial situation behind all of that will also dictate how they look after their people. What we've seen is that the outsourcers, because they might not be able to pay as well as the in-house guys, it means that they are looking at other ways to look after their folk. And that's where you see some really, really brilliant practice around well-being, career paths, training, because that's how they've got to look after their folk and retain them. So it's really interesting that you do see different approaches. And as I say, on the in-house side, sometimes it's down to the brand, it's down to the budgets that are available. It's, there's potentially they can do more, but within outsourcing, it's much more creative.
I'm going to ask you some ergonomic questions in a minute. I really am. I sent you some earlier today. I did say to Twyla when she said, "Oh, can you send some questions over?" I said, "Yeah, absolutely. I'm happy to do that." I said, "But also, you do realise that I never asked the questions that I sent." But
that's okay. We'll just chat.
Well, yeah, no, but we will come to some of those because it's only fair. But one of the things I was thinking about while you were talking is how much has the general idea of company leaders needing to become more aware themselves, more vulnerable themselves, more in touch with their company culture impacted upon contact centers? Because again, one of the things I used to see quite often was quite a lot of resentment from people on the floor that the people up there have no idea what it's like here. Are we beginning to see companies now where we're actually seeing people from the top come down onto the floor and actually have conversations and understand what is going on so that they, can actually react properly?
Oh, massively. So certainly from contact center leadership, they are very much in the thick of it with their teams, without question. They absolutely understand what's going on. Many contact center leaders have come from working on the front line. So they've been there, they've done it, and they will have worked through. I do a podcast called Career Talk, and I talk to all sorts of folk, mainly senior leaders, but also team leaders and specialists. What I find with the senior leaders is that they have been in lots of different roles, so they absolutely get it. And at times where that health and well-being wasn't so prevalent as it is now, so senior leadership within the contact center gets it. We had a step change during COVID. In terms of senior leadership, CEO type level, the top guys coming in, guys and gals, and the change was as soon as we hit COVID, and I know it's a long time ago now, 4 years ago, but CEOs realised that they had to listen to what was going on in the contact centre, because the only way they knew what their customers were going through was through the contact centre, and that was a step change for us as an industry to get noticed. We sometimes talk about, in the olden days, we were, in the shed out in the car park, that thing at the other end of the somewhere else. Whereas now I hear many more stories about, the contact centre is in the middle of the head office. We're far more engaged with senior leaders outside of the contact centre and other functions than we've ever been before.
That's brilliant. Well, so what are the most common challenges in terms of well-being or looking after people in contact centres?
Yeah, well, it's the same as if you've got any office, to be honest, because you've got people that are coming into the office, you've got people that are working remotely. I was talking to a recruiter this morning, actually, and she was saying, we've been talking over the last few years, again, because of all the changes that have been happening, that sudden shift to everybody working from home. Is everybody coming back into the office? And there was a time where, I can work from anywhere. So I can work for an organisation in Newcastle and I can go and live in my house down in Cornwall. And then as slowly people are saying, organisations are saying, actually, we want you to come into the office. It might not be every day. It might be once every 2 weeks. It might be twice a week. And so the whole recruitment piece now is actually, we want you to be closer to the office, so that you can work from anywhere is not as pertinent as it was a few years ago. And it's the people that are working from home that looking after their well-being is potentially more difficult and more important, because as humans, we like to be with people. Even introverts like to have a little bit of, I belong to something. And if you're working from home, and you might see it with people that that work from home 5 days a week, every week of the year, that actually they can, you can get, it's not as fun, it's not as inclusive, and actually you can start to go into other places. So it's finding that balance to make sure that you're looking after your people when they're working remotely. And I think that will have played a part in actually coming to the office, come and be with people, come and get that support, that emotional support, because a lot of the calls that folk take on the front line are really tough, really hard. You never know what you're going to get, how happy that customer's going to be. So they just need that emotional support as well.
I totally get that. As someone that works from this 99.9% of the time, I was in Manchester yesterday, so that was lovely, and I'm actually out and about again on Monday. My word, I've never been out so much. But for most of the last 5 years, I have spent most of my time in one place, and that has its own challenges. I mean, it's probably quite challenging. I mean, I have the same kind of challenges as someone that's doing sort of contact center work from their house as well. What happens when the kids will get home and barge in and the dog barks and the kids are screaming and all of that sort of thing. But also, yeah, as you say, if you have a tough hour with somebody on the phone or on something, then how do you release from that? Because there's no one for you to then talk to about that. You've just got to internally deal with it. So I totally get that.
And there's loads of systems that contact centres use to do that. The door always open, press a button and there's someone there to help you type stuff. But at the end of the day, if you're working remotely, you're at home in your own space on your own. And like you say, potentially dealing with some tough conversations.
Yeah. On the flip side of that, and let's talk a little bit about design and whether that's changing. Actually, in physical contact centres, in the past, there was a point where the kind of real estate value of square footage or whatever was being prioritised, possibly over sort of human factors, and desk sizes were getting smaller and smaller. It actually in some places it actually felt a little bit like a battery hen thing, because there's the next person next to you literally breathing down your neck. The kind of cubicle thing, because you're on the telephone or whatever as well, it just you're in this little cocoon. And there was a lot of hot desking as well. So with a lot of hot desking, a lot of, in one area for one place, and then that whole team gets moved to another area of the building, it tended to cause a number of issues with people being able to set up their area, from a sort of ergonomics point of view or well-being point of view in terms of having the right equipment there, but also just from a point of view of it feeling like a comfortable space for them, because they couldn't necessarily have anything out in that space that kind of made it their own. And for some people that's important, other people just like to work in a sterile space. How much of that is changing?
So hot desking became very popular in recent years, partly because where everybody did go home, they then had to have their own equipment, and they therefore did have their own headsets and mice and keyboards and everything else that they need. So hot desking has become more popular. But the reality of that is, and partly because you've got these office areas and that are suitable for 100 people, and actually I've got 120 people, but we do remote working, so everybody's not in the office at the same time. So better use of space potentially. But the use of hot desking is great, but you will have people that go, this is my space. I come in every day now, and this is my space. And that's okay. And that's one of the great things around contact centres, is you've got that flexibility. There'll be other folk that will come in and go, I'm going to sit with another team, or I'm going to sit with another group of people today because I like to go and meet lots of different people. But there's still that when you're in the office, you're with your team. So you've still got those people around you. And you talked about the having the cubicle type thing going on. The technology today, you've got all the extra sound in the contact centre isn't there anymore, so you don't need to be in that cubicle kind of space. Having people right next to you and giving yourself space, again, that will come down to how much space the contact centre has got, but also what their approach to looking after their people is. But having someone close is not necessarily a bad thing. So some of the stories I hear from leaders from years ago who have said, I used to love it that, if as a team leader, I could see my whole team because they were all there. And I could see just from the body language if they'd had a tough call, and just someone reaching out next to you and just kind of, I'm here for you while you're doing that tough call, hand on the shoulder type thing. Actually, that's okay. So again, it depends what kind of calls you're dealing with in the contact centre. There's one of our members. I'm gonna name drop them because they've just their contact centre is great. Dorchester Collection. that is of a particular type of customer. There is a particular brand that they are trying to get across, and they've just opened up a new contact centre right in the heart of London, and their desks are quite big. They're not their structure. They do site visits and stuff, so I'm not breaking any secrecy stuff here. But they don't have banks of desks like in a schoolroom. What they have is that they have got pods, so they'll have 3 people that are facing into each other, and then they also have at the end or round about those spaces, they've got extra furniture that pulls in the noise, so it's not even a noisy environment. So and that's a relatively new contact centre. They opened last year. So they have been looking at how they can make that space better from a noise perspective, a little less bank-like, but they've also got loads of plants in there. And that again, they talk about
biophilia.
But it's having that's the plants are creating the better air for them, and it also just really makes it feel a much more healthy and relaxed environment.
They just need a dog now, and then they've ticked every single box.
Oh, so we hosted an event at a company called Dojo down in the West Country in Bristol this week. And although we weren't able to take any photographs of the contact centre in the contact centre, they all had their dogs. All their dogs were in, and it's brilliant. There's a brand called Button Up Box. They are dog food, and the dogs are in the office all the time. They love it.
You're doing a great job for anyone recruiting for any of these roles in these particular businesses. I mean, yeah, that sounds so much better. And I think it needs to go that way, especially given the fact that one of the things that is being talked about more, one of the things we understand more, etc. now is neurodiversity as well as neurotypicalism. And it's you can't have necessarily, you can't create a space and go that space will work for everybody.
So there was a member I was talking to last year, a bank. I'm not going to mention this brand, a major bank, and in a sales environment. And she was a leader, and her upon high had said, "Bring everybody into the office." And she was like, "It might not be right." And when she looked at the statistics, there was one member of the team that whenever they came into the office, their productivity and their performance didn't perform. But when they're at home, the best salesperson they've got. And partly driven because of the neurodiversity side of things. And so and again, that's what I love about our industry is that I talk about the fact that diversity and inclusion and equity and belonging, we are leading the way in contact centres, because it doesn't matter what makes you unique, what makes you, there's a place for you. And some would say, well, can a deaf person work in a contact centre? Absolutely. It's not just all phone calls. That's one of the things I love about it. And the leaders in the contact centre are trying to embrace everything that makes people unique, so that we are using the brilliant talent that is out there.
I've got a contact for you on that particular line of things that we'll talk about afterwards. There you go. That's got everybody intrigued. Oh, what's that conversation going to be? Well, yeah, we're not going to tell you on here because that's between me and Leigh afterwards. But there we go. Twyla, one of the things that you must see if you go into contact centres with ergonomic product or products that promote good well-being, because I don't like the term ergonomic. It's funny that, isn't it? Because it gets overused. Because people just put it in front of anything and say that it's ergonomic. See, that's an ergonomic mouse. That's an ergonomic key. That's an ergonomic piece of paper. I mean, it's just that easy, and it's, how do you know? Right? It's only ergonomic if it actually applies to the principles of ergonomics. Sorry, that's a bit of an aside, but a really important one. But when you take some of your wonderful kit into some of these buildings, one of the things is, Leigh mentioned it a little bit there, is some people get really protective over kit, and I think one of the things that the industry hasn't done particularly well in the past in terms of supporting people, especially in contact centers, is that this whole idea of setup, right? This whole idea of, and now I'm going to show you how to use it, right? Because there's almost been a culture that's been created in the past of, here's a poster, this is how to sit, I'm going to show you how to use this, and people have, been shown how to use something, and then they get scared. And then what happens is they go, I don't want anyone else touching my area, please. And I don't, people put a bag over their chair. They go, nobody else touches my chair. Nobody else, don't move that an inch on my desk or whatever. And my adjustments have to look like this. And it actually causes fear, right? Whereas actually, it's because there's been a little bit of bad teaching in there, because it's actually, what they haven't been taught is that this stuff is adjustable, and what you need to learn is, what is your body saying to you, right? And when your body says this, actually, now I can adjust it to help my body, right? But there isn't an answer. There isn't a way of using it. How much of that have you seen?
I wouldn't say that that's just contact centers. I think that's just office behavior, human behavior in general. And I think one of the problems is also a one-size-fits-all sort of approach, because different individuals will want to work in different ways or have different requirements. And what's comfortable for one person may be uncomfortable for another. Some people are still paper intensive or writing intensive. That's the way they work. Other people have no need of that. It's going to create different solutions. I think the one thing that's so good about neurodiversity is that what people are trying to do is peel away the labels that make neurodiversity different. And instead of saying, you can have this because you are that, and then having a label and having people possibly feel segregated because of their need for different support, is saying, this person needs this to do the job to the best of their ability, and so they will have it. And so that labeling, I think, prevents theoretically healthy people from doing better in their environment, because people don't want to be seen as special or needing extra, whereas people just need what they need.
Amen to that.
Yeah.
To that, definitely. It's, that resonates a lot with me, because I have a number of access to work clients.
Yeah.
And I think in the past, I'm going to say this, a lot of access to work, the way that access to work has been utilized has been wrong. And I'm quite passionate about that, because it's actually a great scheme. Giving people money to help them is great, but what sometimes it's been used as in the past is people have been given stuff to almost to try and coach them out of being whatever it is that they are. Right? So you're dyslexic, so actually what we'll do is we'll try and make you slightly less dyslexic with helping you with, learning spelling or whatever. Actually, just leave them being rubbish at spelling. That's fine, right? And so what I do with my clients is that I say, let's have a look at what it is that you're really great at, and all the stuff that you really hate because of your dyslexia or whatever, actually, we'll get other people to do that. And let you get on with being that. And I think this is how we should disseminate things. Sorry, we're going a bit off tangent, but it's really quite cool. But I think that's what we should do within all organisations. And I'd love to hear Leigh's take on this as well. I actually think what we should do is write for everybody in every organisation a list of all the things they're really good at, all the things that they're not really good at, what things they'd like to get better at so that we can train them on those things, but the things that they passionately want to get better at. But then when we look at those lists, we get them involved in stuff that they're really good at.
That's what's great about the contact center, though, is because you've got so many different things that you could be doing, different channels, different types of conversations. It could be service, it could be sales, it could be help desk, it could be complaints, it could be retention. It could be dealing with fraud. There's so many different things that you could be doing. That's just on the front line, let alone going into, actually, I don't want to talk to customers anymore. There's a load of stuff you can do on the support side of things because you've spoken to customers, you know what customers like, don't like. So you can then start looking at, well, let's look at coaching those frontline. And people that might have a much greater desire to be helping others within the contact center rather than helping customers. So there are so many opportunities to be able to find the right job for the right person. And I think that for me is where the diversity and inclusion, but the equity piece being in there, and understanding what you enjoy, seeing what you are really good at, identifying the right role for you, and then that person just excels. And that's, I think, what makes high performing teams, because you've got the right people in the right job doing the right thing. And if they're loving it, they're much more likely to be productive.
It's interesting what you're saying there as well, because I think, so many times you have a job and it's just this. And a lot of the problems come because it's just this all the time. So that person who doesn't like talking to people anymore probably enjoyed it at one stage, but now they're burnt out. So rather than letting them get burnt out, why not create a more dynamic role that keeps that? Because some people need that sort of level of mix it up. Other people, maybe, I just want to do this for the rest of my life, and that's okay too. But recognizing those different personalities early on, if you put that person like this into that, they're going to get burned out. If you put the person like that into this, they're going to get burned out. So recognize them as individuals, craft that role around them, and then in the long term, you don't have as many problems.
And if you've got, whether it's neurodiversity, whether it's a disability, and you are really good at this, but actually it's really hard to do this because you do need some support in, whether it's through tech, whether it's through your setup, then that for me is where the equity piece comes in, because you're actually creating that level playing field where it doesn't matter what makes you unique. You're actually still able to do the job that you want to do because you love it and you're great at it.
Yeah. I mean, I think one of the things I've seen, I'm working with a company at the moment, and they have a contact center. They're a housing association. And the number one thing that comes out of their assessments of the workstation is, doesn't matter what the problem is, it needs more movement. And that's something that we can help with to help create in those static roles, if you have them. Anyone can move more if they're reminded and if they feel that that's part of what they should be doing. So it comes from the management has to have that within them as well. But we can help that to happen, because when you're sitting at the desk and you're into your job, you're not thinking, I need to take a break. You're not thinking, and it's not about forcing people to do anything. It's about suggesting to them to get their rhythm of work working for them. And I think that's the number one thing. How do we integrate movement into things that may be traditionally static?
So a few years ago, Bupa did a experiment where they had some of their frontline wearing wearables to be able to see how much exercise, how much movement they did. The results were shocking. I can't remember the stats, but the results were shocking to the point that, the outcome was you got to move, you got to have a good diet, and make sure that you keep using your brain, your head. That was no surprise, the results that came out, but it was the lack of movement that was shocking in the results. And there are contact centres that do have desks that go up and down. I've got one myself so that I can do these standing up because I feel more comfortable doing these standing up. There are quite a few salespeople that much prefer to be doing their calls standing up rather than sitting down. And yeah, I have been into contact centres where you have got people that are standing up and their desk is lower. But that's okay because they're still moving around. You know, the headsets are wireless. You know, they can still do that. But I remember going into a contact centre over the summer, and the chairs were quite high, but the desks were quite low for some people because that's what they wanted to do. So it's coming back to something you said, Graham, earlier. It's all about having that choice and having the ability to, if you want to stand up, you can.
Yeah. It's interesting you mentioned Bupa because at the event that was at yesterday, our keynote speaker, who's someone that I do his podcast. There's a shock because I do quite a lot of podcasts. But he was actually involved in the culture change piece at Bupa. It was his organisation that were called in to help Bupa with that, and what a transformational piece that was. If you've never heard the story, you need to go and speak to that speaker. I'll put his details in on the comments of this. You'll have to read it. I'm not going to say it out loud. But yeah, it made me realise. I think, like all things, that culture, that C-suite culture change bit is absolutely crucial in terms of what's probably happening then in terms of contact centres and the changes that are happening. Because if that doesn't happen, you won't see it happening below.
I think it's twofold. I think there's making sure that the C-suite notice us and see what we're doing. But one of the things we're trying to drive is giving our senior leaders in the contact centre a voice, showing them how to have that voice and the kinds of information, the insights, frankly, that they've got to be able to, and the stories that they can tell to show this is what we're doing, so that they can share their great approach to diversity, inclusion, equity, and belonging with other functions in the business, so that they can say, right, our customers are telling us that this product, the packaging on this product, they're really not happy about. That goes into marketing, goes into product development, package development to go and make that change so the customers are happy. And that's where a lot of the value, I think, comes from the contact center. I just want to go back a second, if I may, around the desk setup. So yep. There were stories in around March, April 2020 where you had people going home and they were dealing with customers on their ironing board because they didn't have the setup at home. That for me is an important part that contact centres are doing, is they are making sure that the home setup is as good as, if not better, but is certainly as good as the workplace setup. And one of the things that one of our members does is that they actually go and visit. So it's not just a over video, what does your setup look like? They actually go and visit every single one of their front line on an annual basis to make sure that they've got the right setup for the job that they're doing.
That is so rare.
I think that is quite rare, especially if you've got large contact centres. It's hard to get out to everyone.
Yeah.
But that making sure it's not just what you've got in the office, it's what you've got at home is actually working for you as well.
Well, talking to companies that do workplace assessments, the percentage of home-based workplace assessments compared with office-based workplace assessments is still so low. And actually a lot of companies don't do them still. It's horrendous how many companies don't do them. But also with that actually the other thing with that is that people need to start thinking about that earlier on in the process of hire as well, because realistically, and I saw that I was doing workplace assessments right up until sort of, mid-COVID, and I saw in that as people were forced home out of offices, some of those people can't work from home. They just physically can't work from home because what they've done
Lots
is
of reasons.
but for a lot of them, the main reason is they have taken a job in a call center or an office, partly on the basis that that's the space they're going to live in during the day, right? They live in a space that's literally a bed, a sink, a toilet, and there is no room for anything else.
Yeah.
And even though some of the companies that I might have been sort of subcontracted into would have said, and actually we're quite happy to provide them with a sit-stand desk or whatever. As soon as you assess them, they go, right, you get them on Zoom and they'd go, and this is the end of my bed, and there's my toilet, and there's the front door, and you go, right, you ain't going to fit any, you're not going to be able to swing a cat in there, let alone put any equipment in there. So,
So that assessment in the recruitment process, it does happen. Certainly, if there is the opportunity to work from home, then that does happen. There are organisations that only recruit remote place workers that will also check that you've got that you've got a broadband connection that works, that is strong enough to be able to deal with the amount of calls or interactions and the tech and the access that you need, all the way through to actually, have you got somewhere to work?
By the way, it happened last time with Twyla as well. I think she's gone to move for a minute. There you are. It's just to remind everybody out there that it's good to, I mean, we've been going for 50 minutes now. That's a good time to get up and move. There you are. She's back.
Oh yeah, I had a delivery. I had to. Yeah. I was just going to say on that note about home workers, I think it's really interesting because the regulations in the UK don't require necessarily directly people to be doing this. But I think there is an implied responsibility, especially to bigger employers and people with deep pockets. You would know more about this than me, Graham.
Well, the HSE directives actually changed several times during COVID, and actually the last set of responses that came out of HSE do require you to go and look at home.
You are legally responsible for the health and safety of your employees, regardless of where they work.
It changed from should be taken into consideration, and sort of it's sort of like it's a recommendation that we think it would be worthwhile you looking at it too. Yeah, you need to look at it.
Yeah.
So and I think any business that wants to be kind of proactive ought to be asking any member of its staff who work from in a hybrid fashion, work from the different locations, ought to be going, when you work in those different locations, how do you work?
Absolutely.
Right?
I think there are lots of ways to manage that. And again, having that absolutely every single person met face to face is very difficult, but is the best way. But there are services and things that you can use to supplement that, to make it a way of deciding where you go first, to make a hierarchical decision about your risk and where it needs to be placed, where that expensive effort needs to be done.
Yeah, absolutely.
Graham, can I just say that if anybody is interested in looking at what's possible from a workplace setup, Twyla and the team at BACA are joining us on the 2nd of October at the QE2 Centre for the UK National Contact Centre Conference, and they're going to be bringing stuff that shows what a setup, what is possible with a setup, and so there is an opportunity for people to come and see, touch, and feel those kind of products. Sorry, that was a bit of a plug, but I thought I've just got to get that in there.
Not only can you say that, but I was going to suggest you did that anyway. So I'm so glad you just, And
it's very exciting. So so we've got a number of supporting partners. We've got some great conversations on the sessions. We've got a diversity and inclusion panel, which I am mega excited about. We are talking about colleague wellbeing, balancing human contact, apprenticeships, using technology, using insights. We've got brands, IKEA, TUI, TSB, BT, British Gas and Specsavers are on the lineup. And we've got Matt Allwright joining us, the presenter, Road Traders and Watchdog and The One Show. He's joining us at the end of the day to talk about just how important contact centre and customer contact is now, because of what customers are looking for when they are talking to organisations. So he's going to really emphasise just how important and why it's important to get customer attention. So we've got a fab day, and he's staying for a drink afterwards as well. So we've got a fab day lined up.
It sounds absolutely brilliant. I think what you need to do to end today's show, and thank you so much for the conversation. I can talk contact centres ad infinitum, because I just think it's a brilliant subject.
You're not alone.
And I think it's come a long way, and it's continuing to come a long way. Hopefully we're seeing the end of the days where you used to have to put your hand up if you wanted to go to the toilet, dark, dingy rooms, bad furniture, all of that sort of thing. We're coming out of the dark ages of what were call centers. We're now creating contact centers, which are different places with which are full of beautiful human messiness in all of its diversity, and that's what I love to see. So thank you so much for joining us today, Leigh. It's been insightful. Just one last time, in case you are involved in any shape or form in running your own contact center, and you think, love to see what other people are doing, love to learn, Leigh's just going to tell us exactly where it is again, and where you can park your car.
Yeah, absolutely. So we're right in the middle of Westminster, actually. So you can pop along to our website to register, ccma.org.uk, first of all. And it's on the 2nd of October in the heart of London, right in Westminster. You might not want to take your car there.
Exactly. You won't want to.
Unless it's an aqua
vehicle. Yeah.
Unless it's electric vehicle, and there are parking spaces around, and you can use things like Just Park, but it's walking distance from Westminster. It's the views from the venue. We're right on the top floor, and we can see Westminster Cathedral. We can see Big Ben. It's a great experience day out, as well as getting brilliant content and the networking and the meeting people and the just looking at how you can do things differently and better. Is the opportunity there is massive.
Brilliant. Twyla, Leigh, thank you very much. Folks, hope you've enjoyed another Wow Ergonomics. What a great conversation today. Do get in touch if you've got any questions for our guest today, or if you've just want to spout off about your experience of working in a contact center in the past, or whether you now think slightly differently about contact centers, having heard the whole conversation. We'd love to hear from you. Until next time, bye for now. Look after yourselves.
Thank you, Leigh. Thank you, Graham.